All right, we're back for another deep dive, and today we're taking a look at a Women's Premier League matchup. The Gujarat Giants are taking on the Mumbai Indians. And, you sent over a bunch of commentary and analysis for this one, so
It's
I think we've got a lot to get into.
We do, and there's a bit of a curious pattern emerging this season. I wonder if you can guess what it is as we go through this.
Oh, I love a good mystery, so
Yeah.
lay it on me. What was the pre-match buzz like for this one?
Well, this was a big one for the Gujarat Giants. It was their last home game before the WPL moved on over to Bengaluru. And, after 2 seasons without a home crowd, the excitement was definitely there. Both these teams were really looking for a win, though. Gujarat sat at 1-1, and Mumbai were looking to bounce back after a close loss in their first match of the season.
Okay, so definitely high stakes all around. Who won the toss?
Mumbai won the toss, and in a decision that's starting to raise a few eyebrows around the league, they chose to field first. But before we get into all that, some exciting news. Two young players, G. Kamalini and Parunika Sisodia, got their first WPL caps for Mumbai.
Oh, very cool debuts. Always fun to see. And didn't Kamalini play in India's Under-19 World Cup winning team?
She did a definite one to watch for the future. Now, the pitch report for this one, everyone kind of expected a high-scoring match. It was a brand new pitch, expected to be good for batting, maybe a little something in it for the bowlers early on, but there was this talk about dew possibly becoming a factor later on in the evening.
Ah, the dew always a wild card in cricket. So
Yeah.
tell me, how did the Gujarat Giants innings unfold on this fresh pitch?
Well, they got off to a pretty shaky start, I'd say. They lost wickets pretty regularly, struggled to build any real partnerships. In fact, their highest partnership of the innings was only 24 runs, which is,
Well,
quite low considering the batting talent they've got on that team.
yeah, that is rough. They had a pretty strong lineup, right? Beth Mooney and Laura Wolvert opening the batting, and Ashley Gardner as captain. What happened?
Well, Mumbai's bowlers really kept things very disciplined, kept the pressure on, didn't really allow any of those big partnerships to develop. Haley Matthews, in particular, was just fantastic, ended with figures of 3 for 16, just absolutely unplayable.
Wow, yeah, 3 for 16, that's a game changer.
Yeah.
Must have been demoralizing for the Giants.
It really put them on the back foot, and
Yeah.
they ended up finishing with a total of 120 runs, which, especially with that dew factor we talked about, might not be enough.
Yeah, that does seem a bit low, given how the pitch was initially described.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe their approach was a bit too aggressive early on? Maybe overestimated their ability to dominate on a new pitch like that?
It's possible maybe they should have assessed the conditions a little bit more cautiously. Cricket's not all about power. It's about being able to read the game and adapt to the situation.
For sure. All right, so Mumbai walks in to bat chasing 121. Dew is settling in. Not exactly what you'd call a pressure cooker situation.
Sure. True, but, pressure's relative in sports. Any team on any given day can cause an upset.
That's very true. So how did Mumbai approach their chase?
They played with a really good mix, I'd say, of aggression and composure. Nat Cyver Brunt was the star for them, just smashed a quick fire 57 off 39 balls, really took the game away from the Giants.
Yeah, 11 fours. That's some serious hitting. No wonder they cruised to victory.
Yeah, they reached the target in the 17th over, winning by 5 wickets. Convincing win for Mumbai.
I'm curious, what were the post-match reactions like? Did any of the players or captains give any interesting insights into how the game played out?
Yeah, Haley Matthews, as you might expect, was pretty happy with her bowling performance, although she did mention getting out to a loosener,
Yeah.
which is always a bit frustrating for a bowler.
Yeah, always good to see a bit of humor and sportsmanship, even in the heat of competition.
Absolutely. Mumbai's captain, Harmanpreet Kaur, also seemed pleased with how her team executed their plan, especially their bowling in those first 6 overs. Those are really crucial in setting the tone of a T20 match, and they really stifled the Giants.
Yeah, we heard about those early wickets. Definitely seems like they played a major role in restricting the Giants' score.
For sure, before we dive too deep into the specifics of this game, though, maybe we should address that interesting trend we mentioned earlier. Remember how Mumbai won the toss and chose to field?
Yeah, seemed like a pretty standard decision at the time. What's so unusual about that?
Well, get this. In all 5 WPL matches so far this season, the team winning the toss and electing to field has won the match.
Really, 5 out of 5. That can't just be a coincidence.
Right. It's a statistically significant trend at this point, and it's got people talking. Is there something about these pitches? Maybe is the dew factor playing a bigger role than we initially thought? Or could it even be some kind of psychological advantage, knowing the target score you're chasing?
Hmm. Yeah, I'm thinking back to that dew we talked about. Could it be making the ball harder to grip later in the game, giving an advantage to the chasing team?
It's certainly a possibility the dew could be making it harder to extract any movement or spin off the ball, making it easier for the batters to score freely.
Yeah, that makes sense, but it could also be a mental thing, right? Knowing the exact target you need can sometimes free up a chasing team to play more aggressively.
Absolutely. The pressure of setting a target versus chasing one can definitely play a role, especially in a tournament like this where the stakes are so high. It'll be fascinating to see if this trend continues as the season goes on and if teams start to adapt their strategies.
Definitely. This match we're talking about, though, really highlights how important it is to be able to read the game and adapt. Gujarat's struggles on that new pitch, Mumbai's decision to field first, just goes to show you that sometimes the little things can make all the difference. But let's not forget about those individual performances. Were there any that really stood out to you?
Oh, absolutely. On the Gujarat side, I think you got to give credit to Harleen Deol. She was their top scorer, 32 runs off 31 balls. Not an easy feat considering how the rest of the batting lineup struggled. She really held her own out there, tried to anchor the innings as much as she could.
Yeah, she kind of seemed like the lone warrior out there for them. And on Mumbai's side, besides the obvious standout performance from Haley Matthews, anyone else worth mentioning?
Hmm. I thought Amelia Kerr had a solid game. Her batting wasn't as explosive, but she picked up a couple of really crucial wickets, including a stumping that was just pure class, really quick reflexes, great game awareness.
Yeah, sometimes those little moments can really turn the tide of a match.
Absolutely. So, as Mumbai celebrates their first win of the season, Gujarat heads to Bengaluru with a little bit of work to do. What areas do you think they need to focus on to get back on track?
Well, their batting consistency has got to be the biggest concern, right? They just haven't been able to string together enough partnerships to put up those really competitive scores. It's like they have these flashes of brilliance but can't seem to maintain the momentum.
Yeah, and as we talked about before, their approach might be a factor. Finding that balance between aggression and patience, especially when they're facing different bowling styles and playing on different pitches, that's going to be key for them moving forward.
Knowing when to attack and when to consolidate that
Yeah.
can be a tricky thing to figure out, especially in a new pitch like we saw in this match. What about their death bowling? Do you think that could use some work too? I seem to remember them leaking some runs in the final overs of their previous matches.
Yeah.
That could be a real killer in those close
Oh,
games.
that's a great point. You're right. Those last few overs in T20 cricket can be absolutely crucial.
Yeah, got to be able to shut things down and prevent those late surges from the opposition.
Exactly. So we've identified some areas for Gujarat to work on, but uncreeping. What about Mumbai? Any weaknesses they should be addressing despite the convincing win?
Well, no team's perfect, right? Even in victory, there are always lessons to be learned. I guess one thing that stood out to me was their reliance on a few key players for their runs. Nets Brunt was phenomenal, obviously, but they're going to need contributions from the rest of the batting order if they want to be truly dominant.
Yeah, that's a good point, spreading the responsibility around a bit. Making sure everyone feels confident stepping up when their turn comes, that's important. You don't want to put too much pressure on just one or two batters.
Right, you want contributions from the whole team.
And it kind of ties back to that psychological element we discussed earlier about setting versus chasing a target. If Mumbai can find a way to be a little more well-rounded with their batting, it'll give them a big advantage even when they have to bat first. More options with the bat means they're less reliant on winning the toss, and it gives them a lot more flexibility in their overall approach.
Okay, so we've gone pretty deep into team dynamics and strategy here. But for our listener who might not be as familiar with all the nuances of cricket, why are these details so important? What's the takeaway here?
Well, it's about understanding that even in a sport as seemingly chaotic as cricket, there's this whole hidden world of strategy and decision making going on under the surface. And when you start paying attention to those details, you really begin to appreciate the game on a whole other level. You see those subtle moments of brilliance, those calculated risks, those adjustments teams make in response to each other.
Yeah, it's like we're peeling back the layers here, going beyond just watching the action and really getting into the minds of the players and the strategies they're using.
Exactly, and that's what makes the WPL so captivating. It's not just about the incredible athleticism of these women, but also their strategic thinking and tactical awareness.
All right, I got to ask, based on what you've seen so far, any early predictions for who you think might take home the WPL trophy this year?
Oh, that's tough. It's still pretty early in the tournament and the competition is fierce. But if I had to pick one, I'd say the Delhi Capitals are looking awfully strong right now. They were impressive in their opening matches, and they just have a depth of talent that's hard to match.
Yeah, they've definitely made a statement, but I wouldn't count out Mumbai either. Now that they've found their rhythm, they could be a real force to be reckoned with. especially with players like Cyberbrunt and Matthews in their ranks.
You're absolutely right. Momentum is a powerful thing, and Mumbai has a history of peaking at the right time. It's going to be fascinating to see how these teams and all the others develop as the tournament progresses.
This has been a blast. We've uncovered some fascinating trends, dissected some incredible performances, and even ventured into the realm of predictions. But before we wrap things up, I want to leave our listener with one final thought. We talked a lot about this trend of chasing teams winning. Do you think it's just a quirk of this particular season, or could this be a sign of something bigger changing in T20 cricket as a whole?
Hmm. That's a really interesting question, and it's one that cricket analysts are going to be debating for a while, I think. Is it the pitches? Is it the dew? Is it that psychological advantage of knowing the target you're chasing? Or is it something even more subtle, maybe a shift in batting approaches or bowling strategies, or even the way players approach the mental side of the game?
Yeah, we've really opened up a can of worms here. It's going to be exciting to see how this trend plays out over the rest of the season and beyond.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, to our listener, we've given you plenty to think about. Keep watching, keep analyzing, and most importantly, enjoy this incredible display of skill and strategy on display in the WPL.
And remember, as we've seen today, sometimes the most interesting insights are found in the details. Until next time, stay curious and keep celebrating the wonderful world of women's cricket.